Hello, this is how to connect to Fedora Workstation 44 using the remote desktop protocol. Fedora Workstation uses the GNOME shell desktop. Using the package manager, I can search for packages. I can see that there is a KDE Plasma X11 session. I cannot prove that there is a GNOME X11 session, which means that we cannot probably install XRDP, the remote desktop protocol server, because that requires an X server. Let's see if the built-in RDP server that exists in GNOME works correctly. For that, let's go to the settings application and search for RDP. Remote desktop. So in the settings application, under system, then remote desktop, the second tab here, which is remote login. We want a similar experience to what we have with the XRDP remote desktop protocol server, which means if no user is connected in graphical user interface mode to the Fedora Workstation 44 computer, we still will be able to connect remotely using the remote desktop protocol, using a remote desktop protocol client, such as the one built into Windows or the freerdp Linux remote desktop protocol client. So we want remote login to be enabled. Ask for the password of the current user, which is a sudoer. I have enabled remote login. The default settings for the remote desktop protocol, which is TCP port 3389, and we'll need to specify a pair of username and password. I'm going to provide the exact same username and password as the Linux user that's currently logged into the GNOME Wayland session, which is administrator. And the same password. Okay, there is no apply button. This is the GNOME desktop settings application. It's instant apply. Hopefully all of the settings are done at this point. I'm still going to restart the computer just in case. Restart. Thank you for subscribing, joining, and helping this YouTube channel. This is my wiki page and mariusp.github.io. The first link in here about the remote desktop protocol. This is my preferred way of connecting to virtual machines, whether they are local or remote, or to remote computers. If remote desktop protocol doesn't work, I'm going to try VNC. Why? Because I can freely resize the remote desktop protocol client, and that will also resize the desktop of the computer that I'm connecting to, in this case, GNOME shell inside Fedora Workstation 44, and then copy paste of text works correctly. And the speed, the snappiness is there. Okay, let's go to the end of the article. So in here, I'm on Kubuntu 25.10. This is the host operating system, the operating system that's installed on the hardware computer. I can use the remote desktop protocol client freerdp. There's version for X11 or for Wayland, and we'll need a command line like this one, and we're going to edit it a bit. I'm not sure if GNOME shell has implemented support for sound, so sending the sound from the remote desktop protocol server towards and be played on the remote desktop protocol client computer. So let's remove support for sound. And then we need the IPv4 address of the computer, ends with 238. And then this should be it. So we're going to use the local Linux user. That's a sudoer, the first user that I have created during the installation of Fedora Workstation 44, named administrator, which is from the domain of the current computer, which is dot. Initial resolution, width and height, IPv4 address of the computer that runs the remote desktop protocol server, the best features, and the best speed, network :LAN. And then dynamic resolution. When I resize the freerdp client, I want GNOME shell to be told, hey, this is the resolution that I want, such that there's no stretching inside the freerdp window. Let's see if everything just works. Okay, so it says that there is a remote desktop protocol server, and that uses a self-signed certificate. If I trust it, yes. It now asks for the password of the that we set inside the GNOME settings application. So in there we have set a user and password. The user has already been consumed because we have provided it via the command line. We didn't provide the password via the command line because that would be a security risk. We're providing the password in interactive mode. And let's see where we are. The Fedora Workstation computer doesn't have any user logged in graphical user interface session, so in GNOME shell. So we only can see the GDM, the desktop manager. You can see it both at the physical console, as it were, inside the virtualization software, but we can also see it when connected via the remote desktop protocol. Let's see if we can log in from GDM using RDP. And it works correctly. Let's see if we can resize the window. So indeed, the resolution inside GNOME shell did change. You can see that the wallpaper is resized correctly, re-layouted, such that we have the Fedora logo visible. We also have the top bar, the top panel in GNOME visible. All of the features are here when talking about speed and responsiveness. The only thing that I'm still interested in is how stable this connection works. If it works correctly for 10 minutes, then if it crashes, there's not a problem. I'm just going to reconnect. And if copy paste of text works correctly. Let's go to the text editor and let's try to copy some text. So we're copying from the remote desktop protocol client towards the remote desktop protocol server, and it did work. And the other way around, from the remote desktop protocol server to the client, and it did work. So all of the features that I'm interested in are checked. So resizing the window of the freerdp client will resize GNOME shell and Fedora Workstation. Copy paste of text, we just prove that it works correctly. I cannot prove that the sound works, but I actually don't really need it. When I'm connected via remote desktop protocol, I'm not actually playing music or anything inside the remote computer. and the speed is really, really good. I'm not sure how I can prove, but the rendering of pixels is really great. There's no stretching, nothing interesting happening here. And the speed of everything is on par with just connecting to that computer. And maybe the speed is even better than my experience in here using the virtualization software. I cannot prove that remote desktop protocol connection is faster than the virtualization software, but I have a hunch it is. Okay. And then there's additional advanced features, which we don't know if they work yet, because adding full remote desktop protocol server to GNOME shell via the Wayland session is a recent feature. So additional features that could be implemented in the future, or maybe just work already, are sharing the home directory between the remote desktop protocol client and server, sound, and the other redirecting of hardware such as webcams, USB sticks, etc. But I'm not interested in those features. Just resize, copy paste, and speed. That's what it is very important to me. And if I have these features, for instance, I can use the Fedora Workstation 44 computer and not start the web browser in there. I can just use the web browser on my most important computer, where I have all of the bookmarks and accounts and everything else. And then on Fedora, when I need some information from the internet, I just copy paste it from the remote desktop protocol client computer. So if I want to research something, I will do it on the remote desktop protocol client. And if I want to work something, I'm going to work inside the Fedora Workstation, so inside the computer with the remote desktop protocol server. Let's see if we can unlock the screen. Using the remote desktop protocol, we can. Let's see if we place this window at the top right. If we just close the remote desktop protocol client, if the session will be kept, which I hope it does. So my session was kept. There's just one window open, which is a text editor, and the text that I put in there is in there. But then, because there were a number of resolution changes, at least 3 of them, the window did move around. I'm not sure if this is a limitation about Wayland absolute window positioning, or it's just the fact that I have resized the GNOME desktop twice. So the resizes were one because I have requested this initial resolution, and then after I logged in, it saw that the freerdp window saw that there's not enough space on my screen for this resolution. So there exists 1920 pixels width, but there are no 1080 pixels height, because the entire screen, the entire monitor is 1080p, and part of the height is used by the KDE Plasma main panel. So actually it resized the GNOME shell desktop to, I know, 1920 by maybe 980. And then at the next The third time that I have changed the resolution was when I went from this to this, so taking just half of the screen. So that means now the width is 960 and the height is 1080 minus the height of the title bar of freerdp minus the height of the KD Plasma main panel. So the session was kept, resolution changes, as we said previously, do work correctly. So these are the features that I'm interested in. By removing support for an X11 session inside GNOME, I lost support for XRDP, the Remote Desktop Protocol client, but then I gained the built-in support for connecting using Remote Desktop Protocol, both at the level of GNOME shell, the desktop, but also inside GDM, such that I can create a new GNOME Wayland session, even if there's just the GDM screen, the desktop manager. So thank you, GNOME, for implementing this very important for me feature. The feature does work. I didn't encounter any crashes. Thank you.